Welcome to our exploration of the 10 plagues and their profound dialogue with Egypt's sacred gods. Welcome, friends, to a tale woven in time, a story of power, faith, and the delicate balance between humanity and the divine. We journey back to the sands of ancient Egypt, a civilization that gazed at the stars and saw their gods reflected back. This isn't just a story about plagues, but a conversation, a divine dialogue between a people and their deities. Join us as we uncover how each plague acknowledged in its own way the divine powers revered by ancient Egyptians. Each act, a stark counterpoint to the very essence of the gods themselves. Imagine the Nile, the lifeblood of Egypt, turning to blood, a direct challenge to Hapi, the god of the Nile's fertility. Picture the land overrun by frogs, creatures sacred to Heqt, the goddess of birth and regeneration. This is a story of faith tested, of power questioned, and the profound ways in which ancient civilizations understood the universe and their place within it. The Nile, a shimmering ribbon of life winding through the desert, was more than just water to the Egyptians. It was the embodiment of Hapi, the god of fertility, his bounty ensuring the land's prosperity. But imagine the horror as the life-giving waters turned to blood, a crimson stain upon the very heart of Egypt. Fish died, crops withered, the stench of decay filled the air. This was no mere natural disaster. It was a direct affront to Hapi's power, a challenge to his life-giving dominion. This plague wasn't just about survival, it was about shaking the very foundations of faith. If Hapi, the benevolent provider, couldn't protect his sacred river, what did it mean for the people who depended on him? The Nile, once a source of life, was now a symbol of vulnerability, a stark reminder of the power that lay beyond human control. Heqt, the frog goddess, represented birth, renewal, and the teeming abundance of life. Frogs emerging from the Nile mud each year symbolized this cycle of rebirth. But what happened when this symbol of fertility became an overwhelming plague? Imagine, if you will, the land overrun, the palace, even Pharaoh's bed, teeming with frogs. This wasn't just an infestation, it was an invasion of the sacred. Heqt's domain, the delicate balance she represented, was thrown into chaos. The plague challenged the Egyptians' understanding of her power. Was this a sign of her displeasure, a punishment for straying from the righteous path? The line between reverence and fear blurred as the Egyptians struggled to comprehend the message behind the croaking hordes. Thoth, the ibis-headed god, was the keeper of wisdom, magic, and divine knowledge. He represented order, the very fabric of creation woven with his spells. But what happens when the dust itself, the very earth Thoth holds dominion over, transforms into a plague of gnats, biting, relentless, inescapable? This wasn't just discomfort, it was a desecration. The air, once filled with the whispers of Thoth's wisdom, now hummed with the relentless drone of insects. The plague challenged the authority of the priests, the keepers of Thoth's magic, their spells seemingly powerless against this maddening infestation. It was a stark reminder that even the most potent magic had its limits when faced with the unyielding will of the divine. Chapter 4. Swarms of insects, Khepri's protection breached. Khepri, the scarab beetle god, pushed the sun across the sky each day, a symbol of transformation and divine protection. The Egyptians saw in his journey the promise of rebirth, the triumph of light over darkness. But what happened when swarms of insects, creatures far removed from Khepri's sacred beetle, descended upon the land? The sun, normally Khepri's domain, was obscured, the air thick with buzzing chaos. This was a disruption of the natural order, a breach in Khepri's protective embrace. The plague forced the Egyptians to confront their vulnerability. If Khepri, the steadfast protector, couldn't shield them from this torment, were they truly safe under the sun's watchful eye? Chapter 5. Death of Livestock. Hathor and Apis weep. Hathor, the cow goddess, and Apis, the bull god, were revered as protectors of livestock. Their images a familiar comfort in the fields and pastures. They represented the bounty of the land, the prosperity that sustained the Egyptian people. But what happened when a pestilence swept through their herds, leaving death and despair in its wake? Imagine the anguish of the farmers, the stench of decay replacing the sweet smell of hay. This wasn't just an economic blow, it was a personal tragedy, a sign that Hathor and Apis, the divine patrons of their livelihood, had abandoned them. The plague raised questions about the gods' benevolence. If they allowed such suffering, were they truly worthy of devotion? Chapter 6. The Boils of Egypt, challenging the healing touch of Sekhmet and Isis. Sekhmet, the lion goddess, and Isis, the divine healer, held the power of healing, their compassion as boundless as the desert sands. To suffer a plague of boils, painful, festering sores covering the skin, was to experience a betrayal of their healing touch. Imagine the agony, the desperation, as even the simplest touch brought searing pain. This wasn't just physical suffering, it was a crisis of faith. If Sekhmet and Isis, the embodiment of healing and protection, couldn't alleviate their suffering, what hope did they have? Chapter 7. Hailstorm of fire. Nut, Shu, and Ra's fury unleashed. Nut, the sky goddess, stretched her starry body across the heavens, her embrace encompassing the world. Shu, the god of air, held aloft her celestial form, while Ra, the sun god, journeyed across her body each day. But what happened when this celestial harmony shattered, unleashing a hailstorm of fire upon the land? Imagine the terror as fire rained down from Nut's once protective embrace, the air, Shu's domain, filled with the roar of the storm. Ra's life-giving light was obscured by thunderclouds, his warmth replaced by searing heat. This wasn't just a storm, it was an act of divine wrath, a terrifying display of the god's power. Chapter 8. Locusts devour the land. Min's bounty consumed. Min, the god of fertility and vegetation, was celebrated for the abundance he brought forth from the land. His image adorned temples, his blessings sought for a bountiful harvest. But what happened when a plague of locusts, those insatiable devourers, descended upon Egypt? Imagine the horror as fields of grain, once bursting with Min's bounty, were reduced to barren stalks. The air, thick with the buzzing of countless wings, became a symphony of destruction. This wasn't just a loss of crops. It was a mockery of Min's generosity, a stark reminder that even the most fertile lands were vulnerable to the whims of fate. Chapter 9. Darkness engulfs Egypt. Ra and Horus obscured. Ra, the sun god, bathed Egypt in his golden light each day, a symbol of hope, order, and divine power. Horus, with his falcon's eyes, watched over the land, his gaze piercing the darkness. But what happened when a thick, unnatural darkness descended upon Egypt, blotting out the sun for 3 long days and nights? Imagine the fear, the disorientation as Ra's life-giving light vanished. Horus, blinded by the impenetrable darkness, seemed to have abandoned his watchful post. This wasn't just the absence of light, it was the absence of hope, a chilling reminder that even the gods could be shrouded in darkness. Chapter 10. Death of the firstborn, the pharaoh's divine right challenged. The pharaoh, considered the son of Ra, was the embodiment of divine right, his power unquestioned, his lineage sacred. But what happened when the final plague, the death of the firstborn, struck at the very heart of this divine order? Imagine the grief, the disbelief as death visited every household, even the palace itself. This wasn't just a tragedy, it was an act of divine retribution, a direct challenge to the pharaoh's authority and his claim to divine lineage. The plague shattered the illusion of Pharaoh's invincibility, revealing the limits of his earthly power in the face of a higher judgment. Thank you for joining us on this journey through the 10 plagues and their divine dialogue with Egypt's sacred gods. We've witnessed how these events transcended the realm of natural disasters, becoming a profound conversation between humanity and the divine. Each plague, a challenge, a question posed to the very fabric of Egyptian belief. The story of the 10 plagues is a testament to the enduring power of faith, even in the face of unimaginable suffering. It reminds us that the relationship between humanity and the divine is complex, filled with both awe and uncertainty. As we've seen, the plagues weren't just punishments, but opportunities for reflection, for questioning, and ultimately for reaffirming the profound mysteries that lie at the heart of human existence. Subscribe for more insights into ancient civilizations and their profound spiritual narratives. We'll delve into the myths, the legends and the historical truths that continue to shape our understanding of the world and our place within it.